Okay. I think, yeah, it says it's recording.
Yep, it shows recording.
Cool. But I want to share. There we go. Okay. So, like I was saying, we have, whenever the Zoom thing wants to get out of the way, maybe I'll pull this down some. I have a store model, and it just shows their name here, but you can actually hit the show button. That's a name, a location, hours. You can edit those. So like if I changed it to, well, 5, if I go back, it'll actually show 5. And you can also delete one. So now it's gone from the listing. But what I was going to do is create a department child. So what we would do, well, I guess actually first, before I get started on that one, does anybody have any questions as far as just like this model in particular?
So this model is the parent, right?
Yep, this one's the parent, and we're going to go
Okay.
through a has many child and do the CRUD for those as well.
Okay.
Actually, can you guys see this terminal better than the other one from VS Code?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll use this one then. I'll maybe make the font a little bit bigger. I'm blind as a bat, so. So if we're gonna make a new model, let's make, so there's a couple ways you can actually type in this command. I think the way that it is on Henry's is you do the bundle exec
Mm-hmm.
first. You can also just do Rails G and then the rest of your stuff. Either one works. I'm so used to typing Rails G, so I'll probably end up typing that instead of the bundle exec, but you can do it either way. So if you type in a Rails G, we want to make a model. We're going to make a new model called department. And I think a department should have a name. Is there any other attributes any of you guys could think of that maybe we would want to give a department?
Mm-hmm.
And if not, that's fine. I've kind of been like twiddling my thumbs thinking, what else should a department have?
Yeah, I would just think name.
Okay. And of course, if you ever wanted to make add a new attribute, you could always make a new migration. Did uh, Henry show you guys that as well?
Yeah, he went over it a little bit where you just
Okay,
generate the file and then you edit the migration file.
gotcha. So for now, I'm going to do just name, but we also need to add that belongs to. And I believe it actually goes. Let me just double check. I always get this wrong which way it goes. Stores belong to or belong to stores. Let me just double check that.
Stores : belongs to.
Yeah, it's the model.
Gotcha.
But wouldn't it be singular or would that be plural then?
I believe it is singular. So it belongs to a store. Let's go check that out. One thing I like to do is after I make a model, I like to go check my schema in the database. I'm actually going to, since we're not going to use that, I'm just gonna close that out. So we have, oh,
You didn't capitalize
Got
the model name?
I didn't,
Well-
it doesn't necessarily matter here, but one thing I
Okay.
didn't do was the migrate.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
We'll do a DB migrate. Belong,
It's-
I meant to type belongs to, so let me just delete that model real quick and make it again. New keyboard, new typing things. Oh, I think I have to do a Rails DB migrate again after I delete something. Oh, no, no, no. I have to do Rails D model. I think my nervousness is showing. Now we can actually add it again. Actually, I'm going to Rails D model department belongs to. There we go. Now we should be able to do migrate no problem. And I say that and I hope I'm not jinxing myself. I did. Relationship stores does not exist.
Shouldn't it be?
Oh, I think it is plural. Let's delete that again. And let's make it again. And I think Henry covered this, but you can real quickly kind of go through the commands that you had just done with the up arrow key. Let me just revisit this. Model parent belongs to. That's what we did. Let me delete the model and I guess try the bundle exec way, maybe. Maybe it's causing an issue. Oops, if I put model. I just want to check my models actually. So instead of controller, I want to look at models. Yeah, we just have store. And now I'll double check my schema, but we should only have, yeah, we only have store in here. Just making sure that's all good. I'm gonna clear my console real quick. And to do that, you just do Control L and you can clear out your console. So like if you have a bunch of stuff and you want to get rid of it, you can do that. Bundle exec. Rails G. I'm just gonna type it from scratch. Department. Gonna have a name in the parent store belongs to. Cool. wonder if I need to go ahead and add in the model, make sure to
relationship.
add the relationship there first. Well, that's let's see, this an error occurred. This and all later migrations canceled. Relation stores does not exist from this migrate. Let's look at our migrations.
Do you still have all your other migration files in there that you're? Nope.
Just the one. Let's see. Caused by relation stores does not exist. Oh, you know what? I'm in the wrong file. That's why. That I just noticed. That would help so much. Oh man. Okay. Well, see, I make silly mistakes all the time. I want to go into store. There we go. That would make so much more sense now. So we're going to make a department with name store belongs to. Now that should work. Because it didn't know where stores was because we weren't in stores.
Mhm. That makes sense.
There we go. Now that makes sense. Now if I look at the schema, we'll have departments and it will have the store ID because it now has that relation between store. And also, if we look at the model, it'll have that belongs to. But one thing we need to add to our store model or the parent, I think in y'all's homework, it's billboard. You would need to add the has many. And then the child, which in our case is department. So it has many departments. Let's see. So now what we can do is we can actually fill out and make a departments controller. So we'll generate controller departments, and then we're going to want a index and show for our read, new and create for create, and update, edit, and destroy for delete. And I'm going to do the skip routes command. That way it doesn't autofill the routes. But to each their own, you can do either way. So now we'll have a departments controller. And one thing I do want to fill out before we start filling out our CRUD, I do want to make that private. and get those methods on there. I took some notes, so you may see me look at a notebook. Yeah. One thing we'll want, since this is a child, it is going to require the parent's information. So we will want a set store method. That way we can give to all of our methods how to find the departments. So from here, we'll have a at store equals, yeah, store dot find params. And normally here you would do ID, but since this is the parent, we're actually going to want store underscore ID. And since we made that relation and it shows it on the schema there, the table will actually have the store ID. So we'll want the set parent and we will want a set for the child. In this case, it is department. Also, if I go too fast or if you guys want me to slow down or have questions, just jump on in. I probably should have said that at the start, but I'm saying it now.
You're good.
We have a department, and that's going to equal the store dot departments dot find, and then here we would do that params, and then we can do just the normal ID here. And I believe that's all the methods that I would want here as far as those private methods. And then one other thing you got to do is the before action with on this page. So I know I mess that up sometimes too. Yes, before action. Always want to put the semicolon there, but it doesn't go there. Set our parent, and sometimes you'll see it where you have like the comma only, but for this one, we don't have to worry about that because we want to actually set the store on all of our methods. So like if you had a particular one of these private methods that you only wanted on certain of these CRUD actions, you can do this before action to set that child here only. Yep. On our, let's see, I believe show. We won't need it for index because that's fine. Edit. New and update. Destroy. Awesome. So that's looking pretty good. One thing from here. Let's do the index method. So for here, we're going to want, it's going to be very, very similar to the parent controller, just a little bit different on some of the methods. Some of them are going to look very, very similar. But so for this one, we're going to have the departments. That's going to equal our parent dot departments. So that's kind of like your dot all. It's going to go to the parent method and find all of its departments. And then just like in the other one, we're going to render a component. departments. We're going to give it those props, but this time for the props, we're going to want to give it the parent and the child. So for here, we're going to do store and the child. One thing I like to do is I kind of like to take these one step at a time. You could always fill out all of your CRUD actions in the back end and then go try and test it on your views. But one thing I like to do, I like to take it one step at a time, because if you add a bunch of code, one thing goes wrong, you won't know where to look. So from here, I'm going to go ahead and make in our components folder, I'm going to make a new file named this departments. And you guys went over views recently, correct?
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, I'm going to make this, I said to parents. Yep. That's okay. You can rename your files. Departments. So from here, we're going to want to make sure to import React. Always do equal there. From React. And then we'll want to set up this component. Departments. We'll make our function here. It's going to need a return statement. One thing I like to do just to test to see that it's actually there before actually showing all the data, I'll give it like a h1 tag and I'll just put something in there. Sometimes I'll just put hi, but we'll just say departments. And then we'll need to do export default this component. That way it knows what to grab. There we go. So I'm going to save that. My server, I'm just going to restart it just to be on the safe side. And to restart the server, just a Rails S, or again, that bundle exec, then Rail S, whichever one. Looks like it's up and running. I should also probably put on this an actual way to connect to this page. But one thing, before we do that, one thing I like to do when I'm starting to add these pathings and things like that is I like to go to this local host and do routes. And from here, you can actually see everything. So if I wanted to make a new store, this is the path that I have to take. It's just really, really helpful when you're trying to set these things out. So for this one, let's see. I haven't added in my routes yet, so it's not going to show up there just yet. We need to go, if you hit Command P, you can search for a file. So I want to look for routes. And on this resources, so we have store on here, we need to add a view and also add the resource for the child so it knows where to grab that and add those paths there. And you need to add, anytime you do a do, you need to add an end. Also with like your if else statements, those also need to have an end. Otherwise Ruby won't like it and you'll get an error. And that's one that I get often. But now when we refresh, we'll have our store department path now. So as you can see, it's going to use the store ID, and that's why we need the store ID and define it within our child's methods. So if I want to grab the department index method, I need to grab this path here. And sometimes I will copy it, and when I'm in my JavaScript, what I will do is I will actually make a comment for this path. So I think probably a good spot for it would actually be on the store show page. Maybe underneath the store information. So I'm going to paste it here. But if you do command /, it'll automatically comment what you have highlighted. So I'm going to do that there just so I know which path I need to go to. But what we can do, we'll add that A tag and we'll give it the href here. So we need to go to, since I'm going to be using a variable, I need to put these curly braces and then the backtick in here. So we're going to go to stores, give it the $sign to interpolate with the curly braces. We're going to give it ID because this is the store ID. And then we're going to go to departments. And then let's give it the name departments. So from here, let's go back to our stores page. So now if I go, I have a departments, getting a routing error. It doesn't know, it doesn't have a department. That's why it's not going to show anything. But it also says no route matches stores. Get department. I think I named my model Despartments. We may have to continue with calling it that. Typos, man. Okay. I guess we will call it Despartments. That's really gonna bother me, but we're gonna move forward. If I go back now and refresh, it should update. Departments controller. You know what it is? I think it's my routes. I said Despartments. I'm really glad it wasn't the model or the controller that I called it that. That would have been annoying. Okay. Now we should be rocking and rolling. Let's see. That's a good error. Undefined method for departments for nil class. I actually had this error earlier. But if we look at our departments controller, let's see, it says one good thing is to look into the console here. Oops, sorry, this one. So we try to started a get for this, and it says 500 error, which typically when I see a 500 error, I'm gonna go look at my controller because a lot of times it's something with the controller. So now it's saying undefined method departments for nil class. What that means is it doesn't know what store is. And I think it is because I did not add index here. So it doesn't know. No, well, store knows. It should know what store is. It's coming from this. It doesn't know what store is. So one thing we can do is we can do a puts statement, or they might have shown you pry. I believe I do have in my gems the binding pry, so we can actually look at, okay, what is store? Let's see here. I just want to double check it's in my gem file. I might not have it, but it's gem. I want to say it's pry or binding pry. Has Henry shown you guys the pry gem? Okay,
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
He showed it to us.
cool. Good, good. Let's see here.
But doesn't that pry, we put the pry like after we delete the buy bug in that group development test too.
That is very true.
And I don't know if you do it or not, but I think we all delete the buy bug. Is that right?
You know,
That's what
I'm
Henry's been doing.
Yeah.
gotcha. Let's go with that. Let's delete the buy bug.
Bye, bug.
Yeah, buy bug. All right. And if we want to do that, I'm just going to do it in this terminal real quick. We'll want to do a bundle. Awesome. That means all our gems are good. So what I can do now is in our controller, we can do a binding dot pry. And I will have to restart my server in order for that to take effect. Restart it. Cool. You can, now that I think about it, you can also use this terminal here for debugging. But binding pry is really nice. You can do it in this terminal for debugging. So I have this server started, restarted. Let's just refresh this page. It's still loading. Sometimes it takes a minute. It should be in our binding pry. Yes. So let's see. We should know what store is. We do. So yeah, we do have a store here. It's the store that we have pre-generated. So let's step through the next thing. Let's do at store.department. Department. Okay. That would be where the issue is. We have it as .departments when it needs to be .department. I'm gonna get rid of the binding pry for now. I'm pretty positive that was what our error was. To exit, we're just gonna exit that. And I will have to restart that server just once more, just to get rid of the binding pry. Let's restart again. Oh, it's gonna try and do that. Department for no class. I see it now. Do you guys see where the error is? I was so into calling parent, I did at parent.
Instead of the stores.
Yep. So yeah, we'll just do the at store that we get from set store here. That'll do it. Yay, we have our departments page. I know, let's see, we have about maybe 30 more minutes. I would like to get to the rest of the CRUD. I think I'm gonna leave just this show page at this for now, but I want to move forward in the department's controller, so it may go a little, just a tad quicker on filling this out. But yeah, so for the show method, it's again going to be very similar, but it's going to render component, department. We're going to give it those props. And we're going to give it same we did before. Store. And we're going to give it department. And that should give us all our information for that. And then for our new, we're going to have the department equals at store dot department dot new. And then we render component. I don't render. No, I do. Render component. The new department new. Same information as before. We'll give it that. We'll do the create. So this one, I want, it's going to be very, these two methods, new and create, are going to be very similar. Just a little bit different. So we have store dot department dot new. And here we're actually want to give it that set. Well, we're going to want to give it department params, which we can set down here. So department params. This one, honestly, easy. We only have one. But params dot require our department model and permit our attributes, which again, in this case, it's very simple. We just got a name. So yeah, we're going to permit that up here. And if department, if it saves, then we want to redirect back to our department show page. So redirect to departments. Well, actually going to be store department paths since it's the child. Else, we're going to render a component again. Take us back to that form. If for some reason it doesn't save. All right. So now that I have new, create, and show, let's see if we can make those components. I'm going to make a new file here, call it department. And department new. I just want to double check that, yep, that's what we called it. So now, if I import React from React, does y'all's VS Code ever do that where it just autofills something for you?
All the
Mine
time.
does that sometimes. And now we're going to want to call department new, just like we were before. But this one is actually where we're going to put our form. But for now, I just want to put just a statement just so we can see that it's actually rendering. Let's just say new department. And we want to export. Yep. Let's save that. To save some time, I'm going to copy this over here, but rename it department and say, let's just say department name. All right. If we go to I probably forgot an end like I keep saying. Sure did, right here. I was even telling myself in my head, remember that end. That should be good now. Looks like it's taking a minute to load, so yep, that's good. So now on our departments page, we could actually render a department if we had a department. I haven't created any just yet. But let's, is there anything specific that you guys would like to see as far as CRUD actions go?
Can you do the where you loop through them all and you list them out?
Yeah, of course. Let's do that. So one thing, have y'all messed with your seeds file before?
I haven't.
Okay. Let's do that because I think that'll be actually very useful to you guys. So one thing you can do in your DB in your seeds, you can actually do a loop. So like for example, here I have it make 5 stores. So for this example, I would do 5 times do, and then say store create, give it my attributes. there's a nice gem. I can probably Slack that out to you guys. It's called Faker. It can give you some just fake data that you can fill in. And that's just what I'm calling here. But what you would want to do is you would want to, so each store is going to have an ID. Within here, for each store, you could, let's give them 3 times do. So you can do a loop within a loop and give it some data. So let's see here. Store create. I want to do what you can do here. If you want to make it random, you can actually what you can actually do is you can do, let's say 3 times, or actually say 20, because since it's going to be random, what you can actually do is you can do just department dot create, but what you would need to do is you would need to not only give it a name, and I'm going to use the same thing again. I'm just going to use this Faker company name. We're just going to give them some fake data. And then you're going to want to give it a store ID. And you can do rand here. And since we're only going to have 5, we'll have 1 through 5. So let's see. If I do Rails DB seed, that command, that will tell it, hey, go execute this seed file. And one way that I can test to see that it actually put this data in my database is I like to put a put statement. So you can see, so long as it doesn't error out, that the DB was seeded. And then another thing you could do is you could come to your Rails console and you could do department dot all or whatever dot all, and you can actually see, okay, it went in and actually created these, which it does look like it did. Awesome, awesome. So now to kind of get back to where we were, did you guys have any questions about seeds, or should we go into rendering all the departments?
I don't have any more questions on this seed. If you want to
Okay, let's continue.
continue.
So here on our departments, what we're going to want to do is departments is going to take in some props. And I noticed from Henry's lectures, it looks like he does what you call destructuring the props. So normally you could just have like props here. But since we know that props, we're passing it a store in a department, we can actually do the destructuring with the curly braces. And we can do store and we can do department. I just want to double check. Actually want to call this department just because it's called that there. So we're taking in a store and we're taking in departments. Cool. And one thing that you can also do here is you can do a console log on these to see, okay, am I actually getting store and am I actually getting department? It's one thing that I kind of like to do just to make sure. But from here, so each department has a name. You can also destructure from there. You have a name, and that's going to equal our department. I just want to double check that we're actually getting our data here. So if we do a refresh, cool, department is not defined. When rendering
so
departments.
I was actually curious on that. On your index,
Mhm.
I thought one had to be plural, and it was not.
Yes, I didn't have it plural, and it definitely needed to be plural.
Departments
Um,
equals at store departments, I think. Above that. That very last department.
Yes. That
Would
should
that
be plural.
would that have been the issue? Guess we'll find out.
Possibly. Let's see here. Department is not defined when pre-rendering. Let's go back. Departments with this store name. Department null. I might have done something funky here and called something incorrectly. Sometimes you also get this error if there's like a syntax error. A good place to check is your console, because sometimes it will do all this mess, if you will, show you the actual message. So we did a get on stores and that went good, but we did a get on this and we got that 500, which again is typically in the controller. It does look like it's in our set. It's pointing to our set store. But it can also be a syntax. I just want to double check that it's not giving me that weird error. You might see this error a lot. I know my the full-time students were. Let's see. Store department departments store departments set department departments not find store ID. I do believe this is correct. This set store, so I don't think it's that line that it's saying it is. It could be something in this file here. Because we're trying to do department. So sometimes like a syntax error in here will make it look like it's something in your controller. It's a little funky sometimes. That should be our issue, and it does look like that's what it partially was. Cannot read name of undefined. Okay. So it doesn't know what this department's is. So let's see in our console log what it thinks that those are. Let me just get rid of that for just a second because this should render without it. Yes. Okay. So it gets the store just fine. However, it doesn't know what that department is. Departments. Let me see. Another thing. We can grab props. And from props, it would be props.store. But what I actually want to do is I want to see what all is in our props. So if I console log the props and I hit refresh here, this is what's all in our props. Department. And it does look like this store perhaps didn't, even though we randomized, possibly did not get any department. So I'm gonna control Z and get what we had back. So it should be department. But let's see if we can maybe get one that has a department. Let's try and check some of our other stores. I'm gonna maybe make that. Maybe one of our newer ones got one. Let's see. Go to departments. Doesn't look like that one. That's one other thing that may be just a little bit random is the fact that if you do the random, it's going to randomly assign it to one. To save time, because I know we're cutting it close here, and I do apologize for that. I would have at least liked to get through all the CRUD. I'm going to go into our Rail console and specifically give one of our departments one of our stores a department. So let's give it to our store 1, which we should have. Sort out all. It's actually ID 3 here. So let's see. So let's do department dot create, and let's give it a name. I'm going to name it thing just for testing purposes. And I'm going to give it a store ID of 3 because we know that that exists. Cool. So that's in there. That should now be in our database. If we refresh and we go to this store and we go to departments, it shouldn't be no. Let me do what I like to call a sanity check and restart the server. And if that still doesn't work, I'll walk through what you wanted to look at on the one that does work. Yes, this is good. It should be departments. Since we're out of time, let's take a look at our store, because that one is actually filled out and is working. I'm just gonna close out of some of these here. Okay, so for our stores, one way you can actually, the way that I'm rendering all these different names is JavaScript has a map function. So what I do is from the props, I get stores. And from the stores, I do since it's an array, I do a stores.map. And then I tell it, hey, for each individual store, let's go through and render on the screen, the store name, and if I want to go to the actual store page, I send it this store ID. And then on the individual store page, I do that destructuring of the prop, and I get from there the store prop from that array. I can get the ID, I can get the name, I can get the location, hours, every single attribute. So for you guys with your billboards, you probably have names and genres and things like that. So what you would do is you would take that store prop and actually destructure it, or you can just use, store dot, whatever you guys want to do. But you can get ID, all of that stuff from here, and then that's how you can display it on your show page. So that's how I get all this information here. Is there another question? Any other questions that we're wrapping up? I'm sorry.
You're good. I think I'm good for tonight. So thanks for your help, Danny.
Yeah, of course. Let me stop.
Could you go back to your seeds real quick?
Oh, yeah, of course. I'm going to continue recording, but let me pull up the share screen again. Here we go. So let's go. I hate how Zoom, it like pulls up this little border thing and it kind of blocks your vision.
So I don't think this would solve the issue we were having, but on the random the rand 1.5,
Mhm.
does that, you said you needed 5 ID numbers, wouldn't that only give you up to 4?
That is true. I always forget that Rand only does
It includes the first one, but it excludes
Yeah.
the last one. Yeah,
yeah.
but that
I
wouldn't.
don't necessarily know if that would fix the issue. One problem with the Rand is it will randomly give and assign that. So I would have to look through and okay, which one of these did it give it to? You know?
Yeah.
There is a better way to do it. Off the top of my head, I'd have to go revisit one of my seed files. But you can actually loop within this loop and create a off of what you're creating within here and actually give it the proper ID without it messing up.
Okay.
Yeah.